After playing Leroy since he came out, regularly compete with him in tournaments, and have reached the max rank with the character, I think it's finally time to make a competitive Leroy Smith guide. This video is going to give you more advanced tips to optimize Leroy and play him at the higher levels, if not the highest level. So if you want a more basic guide on how to play the character, I've put some videos in the description that will help you understand the character better to help you understand this video more. In this video, we'll be talking about 4 different topics. The first, we'll be talking about his Hermit Stance. We'll then talk about Cane, then transition into combos and heat usage, and finally hit confirms. Hermit is definitely the most complicated part of this video, so I'm going to simplify it by not talking about every single move in Hermit. The more basic guides can give you a better explanation as to how every move in Hermit works and which ones are the best and which ones are the worst. But what I will say is all of them are pretty useful in their own sense, except for forward 1. That move is straight up garbage, but everything else does have a use for it. But what's even more important than the moves in Hermit is how you transition into them, especially for Leroy. And the first tip I really want to give here is tread very lightly committing to Hermit if you are under +5. And the reason is because if you are under +5, moves like Rage Arts will interrupt every single one of your attacks and will become an option select. This is only a situation when you get down forward 1-4 on hit or your wall standing 1-4 on hit. They both leave you +3 in Hermit, which in most situations is not too bad, but it's not enough frames to really grant you serious pressure. And you do have to be very careful which attack you decide to do in Hermit, because if you're not careful, you could get interrupted or potentially counter hit launched or rage arted like I said before. Your fastest move, which is Hermit 4 in Hermit, does not come out in time to properly interrupt really fast moves like Rage Art. For Hermit to actually beat a Rage Art and come out first, it has to be +5 or above. Tread very lightly spamming these moves too, because being -9, throws become a lot scarier, and even 10 frames become straight up guaranteed. You don't even have time to get out of Hermit safely and block through transitions like step 1 and just going out of neutral Hermit. There are 6 proper ways to go into Hermit in a comfortable situation. Straight up just pressing 3+4 going into Hermit in the neutral, forward 4, down forward 4, down 3 2, back 3, and of course down back 3. Going straight into Hermit in the neutral can be scary, especially if your opponent likes to mash a lot, but if you see they are turtling a lot and being very defensive, 3+4 is a good way to open up their defense. For example, 3+4 into 3-4 is very hard to react to, and you can also pressure with any other move in Hermit. If you want a fast way and non-predictable way to apply your Hermit mix-up, this is a good way to do so. Just be careful your opponent isn't mash heavy, because if they are, especially with mids and highs, it will be a problem for you to apply anything. Next, you have down forward 4, which comes out very fast, -6 on block, and +6 on hit. Even though you are -6, you are still able to do back 2 here, which means you are not completely unsafe. You would have to be -7 or above. Down forward 4 also has a second hit, down forward 4-3, which leaves you -9 on block, but if the first hit connects, the second is guaranteed on counter hit, and if the second hit counter hits alone, you get a guaranteed follow-up. Next, we have forward 4. This one can be a little bit risky only because you're a lot more linear when doing the move, but you're only -4, and if it hits, you're +9 on hit, so it is a really good situation for Leroy, for sure. And if you think they're going to disrespect you on the first hit, you can always do a second hit, which from forward 4-2 and it is a counter hit launcher, so they have to tread very lightly mashing here. This 2-hit string is also amazing for wall travel, and it can screw at the wall, giving you big boy combo damage. Next you have down 3-2. It does 16 damage and leave you +8 on hit. It is launch punishable, but it is a really good situation for Leroy, and it's very difficult to react to. So you're able to use this a lot more than you think. Just do not be predictable with it, because high level players to top level players will kill you for it if you are predictable. Now let's talk about back 3. This move is really interesting. It's very slow and it is a high, so it is reactable to launch punish. However, it's +9 on block, leaving you in Hermit, and if it connects, counter hit, or normal, it will give you a guaranteed follow-up, which we will talk about more later. You can also cancel into it, like I mentioned earlier, which is a great way to cover ground if your opponent is trying to get away from you. Finally, we have down back 3, which is the best way to get into Hermit out of all of these moves, and is one of, if not Leroy's best move for sure. It is extremely powerful, and anyone that thinks the old down back 3 beats this is absolutely kidding themselves. It's +5 on hit, -8 on block. It has incredible evasion, and if it counter hits, a follow-up is guaranteed from Hermit. Just know, while it does look like a homing move, it is not homing. You can step it, so do be rather careful in that regard, but you're rarely going to get stepped for it. You're more likely to get blocked and properly punished for it, so be careful there. If you block down back 3, believe it or not, the best way to counter it is by throwing. The only way Leroy cannot be damaged by the throw is if they give up their turn and do the step from Hermit. Make sure you input that throw as fast as possible, because if you are slow, moves like back 4 will counter hit launch you. So be Johnny on the spot. Now, when it comes to follow-ups from back 3 or down back 3, you'll either be doing 4 1+2 or 1+2. Now, typically, if you want more damage, you'll do 4 1+2. However, it is more viable in the neutral to actually do 1+2, because you'll be right up in their face with your heat active, and it will allow you to close rounds faster, as that's how heat works in this game. I'd really only use 4 1+2 if you can A, confirm you'll kill them, B, have them at the wall. Now it's time to talk about his Pimp Cane. In Tekken 8, the low Pimp Cane was added as an option to utilize for Cane. The trade-off for this was the regular Cane was significantly nerfed, as it used to be able to be used as a follow-up in combos after certain knockdowns, which would grant almost 20 points more of damage in those situations, which made it really nice to close out rounds. But sadly, we do not have this anymore as of making this video. I hope it comes back in the future. However, with the low Cane added, you can argue Cane is better than ever, despite the spike nerf that the mid Cane got. So the question we want to ask ourselves is, when do we use what option so we can maximize our usage for Pimp Cane? Let's get one thing out of the way and state that low Pimp Cane is superior to mid Pimp Cane for many reasons. Before we talk about versatility, generally I do not like using heat when I use Pimp Cane, as it is rather scaled damage, and if you wanted to use heat in a combo, there's usually better ways to do it, but sometimes you might want to just close out the round and get the most damage you can out of the combo, so here are both routes. The key to mastering your Pimp Cane is to use it at unpredictable times, and use it when it really matters. Some of the best times to use your Pimp Cane are during those crazy skirmishes where it's very wild and all over the place, especially now that when you get hit trying to use Pimp Cane, it doesn't get removed. meaning you can attempt it again. And even though the animation looks like it, you do not need to be in a clean hit range for it to properly connect. As long as the low hits their legs, you're getting that launch. So it becomes very powerful in those skirmish situations. Another great time to use it is as when they're on the ground for Oki. In certain positions, it will actually relaunch them on the ground, allowing you to get a mini juggle. And also it is great for tech roll catches, as if they are not blocking low, they will get hit by the low cane. I love to use it to close out rounds especially, but do be careful doing this just because you don't want to be predictable using it. Speaking of being unpredictable, like I said earlier, many people, especially at the highest level, are going to be anticipating that low cane. So to counteract this, this is where your mid cane comes into play. To let them know that, hey, I have a mid button, 1, and 2, you will blow them up for trying to read you. And both options come out around the same time where you can't exactly fuzzy guard the move, so you won't have to really be worrying about that. And if they block your mid cane, you're only -8, which funny enough, because you are in a neutral state and not in Hermit, you could still attempt for some garbage parry stuff. I like to sometimes do down back 1+2, as it will catch many moves. Be careful if they do a delayed move, as that will beat out your down back 1+2, assuming you're -8. And even though it is a very, very rare situation, certain moves are punishable enough on block where mid Pimp Cane will count as a punish. So if you want to be sharp, look out for those specific moves and you will get some big boy combo damage. It is Leroy's highest damage launcher out in neutral, so definitely keep that in mind. The other classic way to use mid Pimp Cane is just out in the neutral. You can catch them moving sometimes, but this is the scrubbiest way to use Pimp Cane, and how many people used it back in Tekken 7. I don't recommend using it this way. You're just risking the chance of losing your Pimp Cane more than you will actually getting a proper launch. Just make sure to not use it as a wall splat. You will miss out on a ton of damage and just straight up waste your cane. Now let's talk about combos and heat. There's not too much to talk about here, so I'll simplify it the most I can. Many people, when they do a combo with Leroy, they'll typically try to screw with forward 3, 1+2, 4, and this is because it will usually give you max damage. However, I highly recommend against using this as a screw in many combos, mainly because depending on where you do the launch, if your opponent is slightly off axis, you will not get a proper combo. Sometimes one of the Wing Chun punches will whiff, and if even one whiffs, that's already points off of damage, and sometimes it will just straight up whiff and you will drop the combo completely. And it's not because of your execution, but because of the off axis issue. Your opponent has to be straight up linear to be fully confident in doing that. So unless you know when your opponent is going to be off axis, which nobody does to my knowledge, it can be very risky to go for this, whether you like it or not. In majority of combos, I actually will do down back 1-2 instead. It is 3 points less of damage, but in pretty much in every combo situation, it will work and will screw every time, 100% of the time. And when you're in tournaments, you need to understand that even though you are not doing max damage, consistency is more important 90% of the time. There's very limited situations where you will need to do a max damage combo. It might be nice to have in your arsenal. You know, there's those situations where someone's really low on health and they make a comeback, but the chances of you dropping your combo outweigh the benefit of those 2 to 3 points of max damage. When it comes to heat dashes in combos, you have forward, forward, 4, or down 1+2. Most of the time you can do forward, forward, 4. This is the more damaging option. However, Make sure you count the amount of hits in your combo, because if you're not careful, the second hit will whiff, and that is a massive dump in damage that you do not want to be missing out on. So if you're not fully sure, sometimes you can play it safe with down 1+2 to confirm you get the proper heat dash in your combo. Speaking of heat dashes, if you are +5 on block or hit, one of your best options is to actually go for 2-1 or 2-2. This is because if they mash a rage art, they will beat your down forward 1 and everything else slower. The only thing they can't is your 2-2 or 2-1. If you want to be safe, you can do 2-1. It will leave you -7, but you're completely safe and there's nothing they can do about it. But if you know they're going to mash, 2-2 is a good way to close out a round sometimes. It's good damage, good plus frames, especially at the wall. Also, especially at the wall with heat, make sure you utilize moves like 1+2 and sidestep 1+2. Anything that's a Wing Chun chain punch. These are really good chip damage, and some of them will even heal you. So definitely take advantage of that. It's really good frame data and really good chip damage. Don't spam it because, for example, sidestep 1+2 is a high that can be launched, but you can use it for some really good pressure. And +7 on block is beyond incredible. We'll just put it that way. Finally, we come to one of the core, most important parts of playing Leroy optimally at the highest level, and that is hit confirms. While pretty much the majority of the cast has some sort of hit confirm / counter hit confirm, for Leroy, it is a trademark of the character and is the difference between the top level Leroys and every other Leroy player. If you are unable to hit confirm these specific moves, I consider dropping Leroy and picking another character. It is that important to be able to master hit confirms. Thankfully, they're not that difficult and don't require Jesus level execution, and are very possible to do in tournaments. The first one, which is an absolute must to be able to properly hit confirm, is Hermit 1+2. This move is -2 on block on the first hit, but you are launch punishable if they block the second hit. However, you have a lot of time to hit confirm this, and it is also a heat engager and launches if you are in heat. So it is pretty essential to be using this move. Sometimes you can just throw it out and see if you get the first hit. Just make sure you can practice getting the proper hit confirm on this one. It's really not that hard to do, and I'd argue it's the most important hit confirm out of all of them. The second move, which is extremely important to counter hit confirm, is forward 3 1+2 4. This string on counter hit gives you 51 damage and +13 with them on the ground right next to you. So this is a very powerful situation, but you need to be able to counter hit confirm this, because if you can't, you will be launch punishable. Obviously you can use it to disrespect your opponent sometimes, but you really don't want to be doing that too often. This move is really good to hit confirm, so you don't really have a reason to just throw out the third hit if they're blocking. The second hit should be your indicator to stop doing the string. And that's where the counter hit confirm is really important, seeing if the second hit connects, because if the second hit does connect, you will get the third hit, which makes it really good in neutral. And speaking of just throwing it out in neutral, if your opponent is airborne in any shape or form, that first hit will hit them and you will get a mini float combo. So you don't really have any reason to not take advantage of this move. The first hit is a knee, which counters pretty much any parry in the game unless you're literally fighting Leroy. The third one that I'd argue is crucial but a lot harder to hit confirm is his 1-1-2 string. The part to hit confirm is whether the second hit connects or not. If it does, definitely practice trying to master this move, because if you are unable to master this move, you can seriously get murdered at the competitive level. Many top level players know to duck the third hit and just kill you for it. you won't even be able to get out the last hit, which, might I add, is also launch punishable. So it's very important to be able to practice hit confirming this move. If you are able to properly hit confirm those 3 moves consistently and every time, you will do very well with this character. There are 2 moves though that would be worth practicing to hit confirm if you're able to do them, but they are very difficult to hit confirm and take a lot of practice to properly do so. And that is down back 1-3 and down back 1-2. These moves are counter hit confirmable, believe it or not, and down back 1-3 can technically be hit confirmed, but it's even harder to do on normal hit. You definitely need the counter hit to do so. If you wanted to practice this, definitely practice with down back 1-3, because if the first hit counter hits, every part of the counter hit animation will allow you to confirm the second hit. Whereas with down back 1-2, there are 2 frames of where you cannot confirm it. So you have to be a little faster with down back 1-2. So definitely practice with down back 1-3 first. Now again, having to hit confirm down back 1-3 and down back 1-2 is very creme de la crop, but if you're really trying to optimize the character as much as you can, then it's definitely worth trying to learn these. However, if you haven't mastered 1-1-2, 4-3, 1+2, or Hermit 1+2, and I forgot to add, you can hit confirm the 1+2 14 frame punish. Those 4, you should be able to hit confirm all of those 100% first before you go to the down back 1 strings. I forgot to mention you can also counter hit confirm down back 1+2, but it's the same situation as down back 1-2. Outside of these 4 kind of tips I talked about, as long as you make sure you have good movement and practice matchups and optimize your punishment, you will do very well with this character even at the competitive level. And these tips I've given you today are tips even I have to work on myself. So if you watched this video to the end, thank you very much. I hope it was informative. And if you play Leroy, I hope it helps you climb up the ranks or get you out of wherever you've been stuck with, to get the most bang out of your buck with this character. He's really good right now, and I don't think he'll be getting any critical buffs for the rest of the game. I'm sure certain things will get nerfed over time. I think back 3 is a little overtuned, and even down back 3 can be overtuned at times, but overall the character isn't that problematic as other characters, so we'll just have to see what happens to him over the future. Maybe there's something we haven't discovered yet, but like I said, we'll just have to see. So once again, thank you for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.